Take a moment to read something to you found in Revelation chapter 12 and verse 12. It says, "Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the seal, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time." Let me show you just how fast this creature is working. When Baum put out his first edition with Wizard of Oz, he sold around 35,000 copies. However, when Rawlings brought Harry Potter to the world, he has sold up to date 400 million copies. The churches back in Baum's time resisted the movie coming out. In Rawlings' time, just this recent number of years, they actually filmed Harry Potter in a closed church setting. Actually, the world has accepted Harry as a good example for the children. Now that takes conditioning, and that's what has happened to us. One footnote on Harry Potter. The book has been put into 67 different languages. If you think this hasn't affected our children in the last decade, think on. The fastest growing religion in North America today is witchcraft. The occult helped to bring in the revolution in 1917 there in Russia, even though Lenin and Stalin were total atheists. And you can still see some of the symbols of Russia that are occultic. An occult is going to bring in socialism in America, and the symbols are very plain to see. This is my belief, but I think there are three avenues that will bring America to socialism. First one is the occult. Second one is going to be entertainment. And third one is politicians. The first one I mentioned is the occult. On your dollar bill, on the reverse side, is the all-seeing eye of Horus, who Franklin himself was an occultist and a socialist sympathizer. Looking at entertainment, Conway Twitty, who died at the age of 59, once said, "There's things that he's done he's ashamed of." But he went on to say that the music we're listening to is bringing us down. With Morrison's interview, and one of his band members mentioned the use of politics while on stage. L.A. Woman was one of the songs that they came up with, and I want you to listen to the beginning intro of that song. Then decide for yourself what kind of message the Doors was displaying about the United States of America. Thirdly, I mentioned political figures. The next person you're going to hear is President Bush's father back in the early 90s.
It is a big idea, a new world order.
Can you imagine that, a new world order? The Prime Minister of England, Brown, just said recently, "We're all socialist, comrade." And that's true. To have a dictator, we need a socialist government. And the occult knows that the only way to get it to be a socialist is to draw people away from reality by giving them the entertainment bone, politicians who have flowery speeches, and KOing the Judeo-Christian belief system. The average life of a rock star entertainer is 36.9 years. If you break that down, 369, it equals 18. 3 6s equal 18. If you recall Jimmy Page's lyrics, the backward mask of Stairway to Heaven, he said that Satan will give them 666. And one of the most occultic groups there was the Beatles. With the White Album, whenever you backward mask, when they say number 9, it says about a dead man. The use of mind-expanding drugs, like LSD and other drugs, people can decode the backward mask put on by these groups. Dr. Freeman, who studies the warped minds of these people, said, People's Magazine, Charles Manson claimed he could hear the secret messages put on by the Beatles. This year, 2008, was the 50th year for the Grammys. 5th in the occult means death. If you haven't heard the music they used to advertise the 50th, it was a song by Mick Jagger's Sympathy for the Devil. The lyrics, right where the place they were singing, is this: "Pleased to meet you, hope you guess my name. Later on in the lyrics for Sympathy for the Devil, it says this: I've been around for a long, long years and stole many a man's soul and faith. U2 also sang this death trap. Robert Johnson was the father of the blues and rock and roll, who sold his soul to the devil at Clarksdale 49. The last album put together by Led Zeppelin, Page and Plant, was called Walking into Clarksdale. Page said he has a jar of that dirt that he keeps from that there crossroads. Eric Clapton says that he was the greatest writer and singer and blues guitarist. Isn't it ironic that the all-time hit, Stairway to Heaven, done by Led Zeppelin, would be somehow connected to Johnson, who sold his soul to the devil, and sings about it? And on the reverse side of Stairway to Heaven, you get these very lyrics. Here, to my sweet Satan, I want to live it backwards, like Zepp, whose power is Satan, and he will give you 666. It is not a coincidence. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame said Johnson was the bedrock of the modern blues and the rock and roll. Johnson, in his own musical lyrics, sings he went to the crossroads where he exchanged his soul to be a musical genius. Up to that point, Son House, a friend of Johnson, preached to him, "Put that guitar down, boy. You're driving people nuts." So Son went on to say, after the Crossroads experience, he became what is known as the father of the Delta blues and the rock and roll. Robert Johnson's lyrics, he sings, "Must keep moving, the hellhound is on my trail." Apparently he didn't move fast enough. By the age of 27, someone poisoned him. If that was the case in Johnson's life, then what Son House and his friends were saying, then the Delta blues and rock and roll got its start in the 30s with a bluesman who sold his soul to the devil in exchange for musical genius status. The 60s brought in the psychedelic drugs like LSD and was used with groups like the Beatles, the Doors, Jefferson Airplane, and the Grateful Dead, whose lead singer, by the way, Jerry Garcia, died on an overdose on a lonely beach in California by himself. This was the 60s era when the acid rock was cool, man. 1966 brought the first above-ground Satan's church started by Anton LaVey. 1967 began an exponential increase in killer quakes, 7.0 or greater. 1968 was the beginning of Isaiah's statement coming true. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. 1969 was a very important year, and a number, by the way, 69. On the 69th week, Christ was crucified for the sin of the world. Also in 1969 was the year that Anton LaVey wrote the Satanic Bible. 1969 was also referenced to by the Eagles in their music, a Hotel California. The lyrics go, "So I'll call up the captain, please bring me my wine." He said, "We haven't had that spirit here since 1969. In the biblical sense, the word wine has always been referred to as the Blessed Holy Spirit. What the occult is saying here in these lyrics is that there's going to be a change, and this change is going to start in 1969. In 1966 is when John Lennon made his popularity statement about Christ. Music has not only affected the United States, it has left an impact on the world.